If you've been feeling your sexual energy really raging lately, you're going to want to stick around. Today's all about sex, sexual sovereignty, and how to really capitalize and empower yourself with this beautiful life force energy.
Yeah, this is a really big topic. I remember when I first started to open up on my Kundalini awakening journey. This was probably 2013. This is something that will happen. You'll notice that your sacral chakra gets super activated on this journey when you begin to open up to the Kundalini energy rising. And so I don't want to make it all about Kundalini energy, but when we think of sexual energy, this literally is life force energy. It is creative energy. And the reason I've been very inspired to talk about this is because so many women, and you can drop a comment if this resonates with you, have opted in for, sovereign celibacy, let's call it that, where what's really happening is you're preserving and purifying the vessel and preserving your sexual life force energy. And what happens on this journey is you end up channeling that through your creative expression. So sexual energy is life force energy, and whether you're creating a real baby or you're birthing something into the world completely new, like your passion project
or business.
Yeah, it's all tied to the sacral chakra, which is rooted in pleasure, passion, your sexuality, your sensuality, and your life force energy, which can be channeled in very powerful ways, and it can also be leaked. And that's part of
I want to go into that.
What we're going to dive into today. So.
The leaks, yes. No, this is so good. This is such an important topic because years ago, when it came to the topic of celibacy, I kind of had a little bit of judgment around it, where I was like, oh, I don't want to be celibate till marriage. What? However, sovereign celibacy, what you just shared, Sarah, I think is so important because you're going to hit a point on your ascension journey where you'll, as a female, and even male, I have male friends that are honoring themselves too, but specifically for the feminine and the receiving aspect of the energy that you are allowing into your field, to your vessel, absolutely can come with karmic ties, and you pick up other people's energy, and you can, right? So I think it's important to use discernment and really listen to your body. Just because society tells us that we should be one way or another, it's not to say you're not going to have human urges, but I think you get to a level where you just are choosing a higher standard. My whole thing is like elevate your standards, helping women raise their standards, and part of that is energetic standards too. And not to say you couldn't express yourself sexually if that was your truth. However, that life force may want to be channeled into things, and if it's not a fuck yes energy with a person that you feel really aligned with, or if you notice that it's like a karmic relationship coming up again, and not like a test, but kind of an opportunity to choose again.
An old identity, an old wounded identity. Oftentimes, even we
were just talking about
it's even a red flag oftentimes when there's just like so much chemistry, so much sexual chemistry that clouds the brain and shoots off all of these hormones and all of these other things that clouds judgment. But from an energetic standpoint, God, I just lost it.
The karmic ties and the...
Yeah, it'll come back. It was about the chakra system. Yeah, I just lost it.
Angels that remember things. Thank you for helping Sarah remember. So when you invite someone in or allow someone into your vessel, look, when you have karmic relationships that might show up again, and if it comes to you, just, interrupt. Sometimes it's going to show up for you to choose. Again, you're a sovereign being. You're in your full authority. It's all about freedom of expression as a spirit. And when a relationship comes back around, it's not necessarily the universe is testing you. I don't believe in tests, but I do know and understand patterning. And when you're shifting into your most expanded awareness self, like the fullest embodied version of the one God, source, universe expressing through you, and you claim an identity from that vantage point, you're going to have old patterns that may show up. That could look like relationships. It could look like maybe same guy, different face that shows up. There might be that chemistry, as you were alluding to, big turn on. But like, if things aren't fully aligned, your values aren't really fired on the same sequence, you're not. But yet there's just that sexual chemistry. Okay, well, that's your sexual life force. you can discern and
It's
choose.
very primal. So what's happening here is like distorted sexual expression versus aligned expression that's in alignment with divine union and inner union. So if you're on this journey, you are aligning with inner union, which then brings divine union. And when you're operating from just primal urges that are very root chakra level, like that is how a lot of people operate in this world. They operate off of like just chemistry and primal sexual urges, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's how you're embodying and expressing it. If it's coming from this if it's coming from a wounded identity, or it's coming from needing that sexual experience or whatever in order to validate, or in order to self-validate.
For significance, like if you're looking for something outside of you to validate you, to create significance, to fill a void, to feel love, like that's where our sovereign being can check within and go, where am I coming from this energy? And again, there's no right, wrong, good or bad.
It's an ascension journey that you're on. So you're literally ascending, which is why so many have been called to preserve their sexual life force energy, which purifies the vessel. It purifies the sacral chakra. It helps clear out toxic imprints that are stored in the womb space, and this is when you'll naturally be guided to things that are purifying for the sacral chakra, such as dance or somatic movement or breath work, especially things related to water element as well, because it's all tied to the sacral. But what's happening is a purification on a very deep level, because you are preparing for divine union in this lifetime, which comes first with inner union. So if you think of it that way, like there's nothing wrong with expressing sexuality. It's actually owning your sexuality is also part of this journey, and not shaming your sexuality and not shaming your sensuality, and fully being able to own it, but from an empowered place, versus what I call the prostitute archetype, which is the fear-based archetype that always gives her power away for a sense of security, validation, acceptance, or approval. If you're giving your sexuality away,
or providership too, even to be provided for.
So if you're selling yourself short, you're selling your soul short in some way based off of that external need for validation, it's coming from a distorted place. It's not coming from a place of inner union. And ultimately, when you lump it all together, Kundalini awakening, ascension journey, like self-imposed isolation, self-imposed celibacy, what's actually really happening here is a purification of your channel, so that you can freely allow higher frequency to flow through the vessel, because this is an embodiment game, so the vessel can vibrate at a higher frequency. And this is when you'll also notice a lot of distorted patterns naturally start to unwind as well. Like maybe your eating habits change, maybe your sleeping patterns change, maybe you stop hanging out at places that you used to hang out at because it doesn't vibe with you anymore. You're going to start to shift in so many ways, not only internally like that, but also externally. And you may be drawn, I know in my experience, to solitude a lot as well. And that's to come home to the truth of who you are, come home
isolation, cocooning.
Yeah, it's like this cocooning phase. And so there was somebody, it's going to come to me. There was a comment that I was going to bring up, and it was a good example, but I'm going to make sure I get it right before
Angels
I say
that
it.
remember things. Thank you for Sarah channeling and remembering.
But is that
no,
resonating?
agreed. Oh,
like
totally.
And
that's the journey you and I have been on. That's when we meet in the parking lot at the gym. That's what we wind up talking about. A lot of like our journey has been so synchronistic. And please drop a comment below if you've been experiencing this too, where you have been guided to be in that kind of isolation phase or cocooning, or maybe the things that once lit you up aren't as enticing or sexy anymore. And sometimes, like we were talking about earlier, sometimes things can feel very seductive. The old patterning may creep up so that you can make a new choice.
So you can make a new choice.
And because you, who's watching this, are something I do know about you. You're already on this ascension path. You already have tried every kind of manifestation technique that once work doesn't anymore. You are being called towards a greater love, divine union. Inner union first, divine union is the outer expression of that. So if you are feeling these things, you're not alone. Drop a comment below and let us know if you've been kind of feeling this too. Because even the things that I once used to enjoy, I just am not as engaged in them anymore. And it can feel very isolating. It can feel very just lonely at times. But while also the paradox is you have a deep inner knowing that you're not alone and that you are the creator.
That's one of the clear signs that you'll, if you're really truly honest in the stillness and in the silence, you know you're being divinely guided through this process. There's a deep inner knowing there if you're resonating here with this. And so it's not just like you're just cutting off, I'm just saying men, but it's not gender specific, so take it how it resonates. You're not just like cutting off men, for example, in my scenario. It's not just like cutting off men for the sake of cutting off men or cutting off sex for the sake of cutting off sex. There was a deeper inner pull towards it, and it wasn't even a conscious thing. It wasn't like something I consciously thought of. I was just naturally drawn to do that. I was naturally drawn to dance. I was naturally drawn to movement. I was naturally drawn to changing different things in my life, like, you know, eliminating drinking for the most part, you know, changing up diet, getting more movement, things like that. So you're just naturally drawn to these things because it is, you are the infinite intelligence. You are one with, like, you're being guided 24/7. That's what brought you to this channel right now. That's why you're listening to this message, right? This is why you see all the synchronicities, is because you're always being guided. So there will be a deep inner knowing that something deeper is happening here. You're not cutting off love. What you're doing is preparing for a deeper, more true, more pure level of love that transcends the 3D framework of what romantic love has looked like and has been known to be in society as we know it today.
The drama, the
quid
chaotic
pro quo,
energy,
the tit for tat energy,
the you
games,
complete me
like,
kind of energy. Like, it's not any of that. And you, like, just because we're talking about like being mindful, raise your standards with your own sexual creative life force, pleasure practices are a beautiful way to express and embody. In fact, like, find ways that, you know, whether it's self-pleasure or dance or breath work or any way, like, it's not cutting off pleasure. The idea is raising your standards to the level of God, source, universe. What, like, quality, because the divine union that you're calling forth stems from the inner union, and part of that inner union is developing or reconnecting with self-love, self-trust, self-respect, just the sovereign choice. You are the full authority and free embodiment of spirit and consciousness. And while you are in this in-between stage, we talked about, you know, identity shifting, quantum leaping in past videos. Take a look at those. Give rise, like, allow yourself to start to be the version of you that already has the thing that you desire, right? You can use pleasure practices to help support that and energize that with the energetics of it, but it's just more about allowing yourself to be discerning and so self-loving that it's a non-negotiable for you and how you want to. Just think of, like, sexual creative energy is like money. It's your currency. There's something else that's coming up. There will be phases, and this could potentially resonate with you or not, so just take it or leave it. It's not necessarily for you if it doesn't resonate, but there will be phases of the journey where even self-pleasuring and things like that take a back seat because you're so preserving your sexual life force energy, and it's intentionally on a soul level being channeled towards your creative outlet, your artistic expression, your projects, whatever you're trying to birth into the world. So I want you to, so there's you'll experience different waves and phases of this. So especially maybe more towards the beginning of this experience, where it's all about calling your power back to you and purifying. And if you think of, like, your sexual life force energy as like a garden hose, like if you're dispersing the energy all over the place in whatever way, there's not as much power coming through until it gets to, like, where it's very purified and coming from an empowered place. And so there may be a lot of hermiting or a lot of pulling back from all of that and not even having the need or desire at all, but that can shift and then come back into play and awaken back within you and stir your sacral chakra again once the purification is complete, if that makes sense. Totally. No, well said. And ultimately, just trust yourself. Honor whatever phase you're in. Honor that sacred sexual creative energy, and just watch what unfolds.
Watch what you create from that, because it's a very power. It is the power source of your sacred feminine that is rising, is rooted and tied directly to your sacral chakra, and being able to harness the power and unleash the power of your sexual creative life force energy is how you really become magnetic. Like, this is your sacral feminine magnetism and your power source. So,
which is why it's probably been bastardized in society
Yes.
and throughout the centuries, and,
Yes.
and shunned
And shamed.
and like distorted and
Hidden
locked
and
up and
suppressed
hidden and
locked.
chastity belted and like all the bullshit that
Yeah.
has come
because
from,
there's so much power
because
in
you
it when
can't
it's
contain
actually
the feminine sexual
there's so much power in it when
Yeah.
you know how to harness it.
sexual energy in general, like masculine and feminine, and
Yeah.
even like the shaming of men or like any of that stuff, like for their creative life force, like it's life force energy. So drop a comment below. Is this resonating? Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. This is how we circulate the energy, good energy, and just all of us get to ascend and rise. The divine feminine energetic, the magnetism that wants to channel through all of us is here now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yay! Till next time. Bye.